name is Jiyoung Kim, and today I would like to tell you stories about Sherlock Holmes. Has anybody heard of Sherlock Holmes? I'm a huge fan of this character, and I'm very excited to share with you my personal experience reading about him. I love this work because of the peculiar personality of the main character, and the way he solves the mystery is fascinating. And I think everybody actually is and will become a fan like me. Sherlock Holmes is a detective story in which the main characters solve an interesting mystery in each different series of books. The main character is Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, and these two always go to the crime spot. While Sherlock Holmes parses out the mysteries, Dr. Watson is more interested in watching how Sherlock goes by tracking down a series of clues. The book, the Sherlock Holmes series, has remained popular for 130 years. I picked up the Sherlock Holmes series last year, and it really is a page-turner. So far, I have read the whole series twice, and it was absolutely breathtaking. And I would like to share with you my reading experience and thoughts about this literary masterpiece during my presentation. First, I will begin with the author of Sherlock Holmes and a couple of important events in his life that eventually led to the birth of Sherlock Holmes. So here is author Conan Doyle, and he wrote the first series in 1887 when he was 29 years old. He began to write about Sherlock Holmes when he listened to a lecture on medication from Professor Joseph Bell in college. Professor Bell was a renowned physician, and he instantly noticed his patient's character and job from his first impression. So, when Doyle was selected as an assistant to Bell, he was very pleased to learn Bell's detective power and medical treatment. However, Doyle wrote the book after 10 years he met Professor Bell, and thanks to his time at Bell, Doyle could perfectly describe the character of Sherlock Holmes. According to one interview in 1927, Doyle said that he wanted to change the old-fashioned character because they always seemed to solve a mystery by some lucky chance, and they didn't even explain how the detective solved it. In 1890, when he wrote his second book, he found a very large audience who loved his work. At this time, because of his fame, he quitted his job as a doctor and became a full-time writer. The series of Sherlock Holmes gave him wealth and fame, but it was not what Doyle actually wanted to write about. So he tried several times to kill Sherlock. But every time that he killed him, many readers protested to Doyle to revive him. After writing 8 more books from the first, he finally ended it in 1894. He published several more books, including The Lost World, and died on July 7, 1930, because of a heart attack. Now, I will tell you about the character Sherlock Holmes in detail, including how he works, how his life was, and how the readers are wired to think about him. Sherlock Holmes is an imaginary character who made a living as a detective. He works in London and lives with Dr. Watson in Baker Street. He was born in 1854 according to the book and has worked in 60 different mystery jobs. The most frequent event was murder. When someone was killed, Holmes searched for the criminal by looking at the scene with great detail, not missing any clue. Let me share just one episode that demonstrates his investigation skills. This episode appears in the first story of the Sherlock Holmes series, and its main subject is murder. This book's title is A Study in Scarlet, and the main character is Jefferson Hope. His wife was killed by 2 men who were jealous of her, which kindled Hope's anger to chase them after for the rest of his life. He searched them for a really long time and murdered them with a pill. When Holmes first heard of this story, he went to the crime scene and noticed the criminal's height, how big his feet were, what kinds of shoes he wore, what cigarette the men smoked, and how he killed dead men. Searching and visiting many places, Holmes noticed that the man was working as a horseman and caught him with the help of the police. But I don't want to reveal too much of the episode because I want you to go and read it yourself. In the book, his job is to encounter people and prevent crimes. And besides solving mysteries, Sherlock Holmes was also talented at playing violin and knowledgeable in many subjects, including botany, chemistry, and anatomy. His vast knowledge helped him solve mysteries more easily. Strangely, he often suffers from depression and uses cocaine to settle himself when there was nothing to interest him. His image to people is wearing Inverness cape and deerstalker and holding a calabash pipe and a magnifier. The series of the book, the Sherlock Holmes series, the book has depicted different images of Sherlock, but as the Sherlock Holmes play became known, they played Sherlock as a modern Sherlock's image. Now, and for the last point, I will talk about how Sherlock Holmes affected people. After the book was released, many people started writing mystery novels, and it later developed into a hero genre. The reason why the Sherlock Holmes series can inspire so many people is because of its reliability during his investigation. More than a century after the birth of Sherlock, various characters of the same kind were born into the world. Many people got ideas from Sherlock and have created Detective Conan Star Wars series. Now my explanation is done. Unless you know the background of Sherlock, it is time for all of you to try reading with all my reference. Thank you for listening.
Hi everyone, have you ever read the Red Haired Anne series? Whether you have read it or not, it'll be a good chance to know about the interesting character of Anne and its author, Lucy Montgomery. For the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you some interesting components of this great work of literature, including the author of the novel, Lucy Montgomery, the girl with red hair and cute freckles, and Shirley, and the movies based on the novels and its commercialized characters and goods. Now, you may wonder why in the world I chose Anne to be the topic of my talk. As you can see, Anne is really popular around the world among all ages, and the novel is also interesting to read. After the end of this talk, you will understand why I grew so fond of this girl. The first thing I'll share is the author, Lucy Maud Montgomery. She was born in Prince Edward Island, Canada. With her mother's death at the age of 2, she grew up in the hands of her maternal grandparents. When she was 10, she wrote a poem called Autumn, and 5 years later, she published the poem in a local newspaper in Charlottetown. From an early age, Lucy demonstrated her talent in writing. Montgomery became a teacher after graduating from Prince of Wales University in Charlottetown and Dalhousie University in Halifax. When her maternal grandfather passed away when she was 24, she returned to Cavendish to help her grandmother work at the post office. Lucy, whose name is somewhat known for writing in newspapers and magazines, also worked as a reporter for the Daily Echo evening newspaper. When she became older, she was engaged to a Presbyterian pastor but postponed her marriage because of her post office work. The first novel she wrote was Anne of Green Gables, published in 1908. Originally, Anne of Green Gables was drawn by publishers, while it was widely embraced by readers who were fascinated by the romantic novel. In response, she released follow-up works such as Anne of Everleigh. There are many series of Anne novels, and even I haven't read them all yet. After her death in Toronto in 1942, her son compiled and published two manuscripts. The second thing is about the main character, Anne Shirley. Anne was born in Nova Scotia as the daughter of Walter Shirley and Bertha Willis Shirley. Shortly after birth, her parents got too sick to care for their baby daughter, and Anne grew up in Thomas's house. When Anne was 8 years old, Thomas was killed by a train accident, and Anne was left in Hammond's house. When Anne was 10, Hammond died of a heart attack, and Anne stayed in an orphanage for a while before Mrs. Spencer took Anne to Prince Edward Island. Marla Cuthbert, widowed for a boy in the first place, decided to receive Anne after much consideration because of the hope of her brother, Matthew Cuthbert. After that, Anne became a close friend of Diana Barry. However, the relationship got in trouble when Anne gave Diana wine instead of raspberry cordial in the picnic one night by accident. However, they still reconciled with each other, thanks to Anne curing Diana's sister's flu. Anne made several mistakes, but luckily passed the Queen Academy as the top of her class. Shortly after graduation, Matthew passed away due to a heart attack, and Anne gave up her dream to go to college. Instead, she worked as a teacher at Avery for a year. After that, Marla and Mrs. Lynn lived together so Anne could go to the University of her dreams. As for that, Anne goes to Redmond University in Nova Scotia with Gilbert Blythe and her friend Priscilla Grant, whom Anne met at the Queen Institute, and also made her new friend Philippa Gordon. After years later, Anne, a college graduate, returns to Prince Edward Island to take the helm at Summerside High School. After resigning as principal, Anne marries Gilbert, and the couple settle near Glen St. Mary. The third thing is about the cartoon characters and goods inspired by the character Anne. The popular Anne's cartoon character, which has become a popular cultural icon, is made by the Japanese Fuji TV. The TV program amplified the popularity of Anne significantly. There were also many films. The latest version is from Netflix and attracted millions of fans from around the world. If you have time, go watch these movies after reading the novel, and it'll give you a fresh perspective. The reason I like this character Anne so much is that she's frank with her feelings and not so smart, not so pretty, but ordinary. To everyone, this novel will be a good source of inspiration and laughter. After reading it, I found out that Lucy is such an amazing storyteller that brings readers into the story. Now it's your time to travel inside the story. I'll finish my presentation with a quote from Anne. Isn't it amazing how every day can be an adventure? Thanks for listening.